But that doesn't mean we're perfect. So one of the things we're going to talk about is one of the key things, and we're going to talk about actually throughout the whole program, is the way to be really successful is just to be yourself, not to be perfect, and not to be like anyone else. And you'll see a lot of the tips is about that. And the first tip for presentation skills and to have a super successful presentation is preparation, which I'm sure you all knew that. Now, how many of you who actually present now prepare for your presentation? Okay, and I bet if I had time to ask you what you did with your preparation, most of you, maybe not all of you, probably do not do the type of preparation that you could be doing to have a really successful, super successful presentation. I had a client, and she used to do a lot of public speaking on a panel, and she would just go out and just wing it, and it was okay, but she really didn't feel great about her presentations because she was just winging it and speaking off the cuff, but it was okay. But then she had an opportunity to speak in front of an audience who could hire her. She is a family business advisor, so really like a coach for family businesses, and she had an opportunity to speak in front of an audience of all family-owned businesses. So she came to me, and we had one session, and in that session, the first step that she did, that she wasn't used to doing, was prepare. And there are 3 steps that I'm going to share with you in the preparation. Now, I have a whole book that there's a lot more steps, like 16 in the preparation process, but I'm going to cover 3 of them. And the first one is to be very clear on why you are giving the presentation. How many of you have gone to a presentation where all they gave you was tons of information, and you really weren't sure why you were there? Or maybe you've given a presentation yourself, and you're just going there to give them all the information you know, because you want them to know everything you know. That all with like maybe 10 years of experience, you want them to learn in 10 minutes, right? Can't do it. So know what your desired outcome is. Be very clear on what the results are. Sandy, you have a presentation coming up, right? You have a lot of them.
Hopefully.
What's your desired outcome? Why are you giving the presentation? What are you hoping is going to happen because of it?
Get more business.
There you go, get more business. Now, next step she has to do is try to figure out what does her audience need to know in order to get that business. And so you start jotting down things. And that's what I did with my client, Ellen. What does your audience need to know in order to create that result? Then, she jotted down all those items, and then she had to write out her entire presentation word for word. How many of you who raised your hands a few minutes ago write out your presentation word for word? Great. One hand, okay. Almost, all right.
Yeah.
Actually, I do it digitally, and then I have it, the digital thing types it.
When you say digital, PowerPoint
I type into I talk into a recorder, and then you load the recorder.
Oh, we'll have to talk about that later. That's a wonderful, I guess it's a software program, right? On the computer, and that's wonderful. That's excellent. That's become very popular now. Okay, so that's what we do. Now, she's got very clear in her presentation. She's jotted down what her audience needs to know in order to create those results, and she's written out her whole entire presentation word for word. And what's the next step?
Practice.
Do you think? There you go, practice. Practice. And what most people do is they sit down, they create PowerPoints or their outline, and they don't get up and actually practice their presentation. And the more you practice it, the more you're going to know it, and the more you're going to free up your energy to connect with your audience. And that's, yes?
Can I ask you a question about why you write out your presentation word for word?
That's a great question. Why do you write out your presentation word for word? Because if you don't, when you go to present, you're going to be thinking about what you have to say rather than connect with the audience. And when you're thinking about what you have to say, you're stiff, you're serious, you're not, the energy isn't there, you can't bring out your personality. But when you've written it all down and you've rehearsed it over and over, you don't have to present it the way you rehearsed it, the way you wrote it down, but because you've done that preparation, the same message will get across. But you don't have to spend the energy thinking about what you're going to say next, even though you know it. But when we're in front of an audience, it's different, and you want to make sure your audience gets what you want them to get. I could talk